So hi guys, I'm Vanshika. I'm currently pursuing BCom Honors from SRCC, and for my summers I interned at the Bank of America in their FIG division.
So hi guys, I'm Harsh Vardhan Maheshwari, pursuing BCom honors from again. I had the opportunity of interning at Deutsche Bank this summer. I interned in the fixed income and currencies branch of the investment banking division in the commodities desk.
Hi guys, I'm Pooja doing BCom honors as well, interned at Deutsche Bank in their fixed income and currencies division in the global markets desk, particularly in the counterparties portfolio management.
Hi guys, my name is Prashasti Jain. I'm also a third year student at SRCC doing BCom honors, and in my summers I interned at Deutsche Bank and I worked under the global fixed income and currencies desk, and I was part of global trading desk, credit trading desk.
So Deutsche first had a cultural fit test, which was basically situational questions on what you'd do if you were, let's say in an office, and let's say a manager approaches you, does not like your work, just 4 ideal questions, 4 ideal answers, and you have to choose one among them, just a cultural fit. Basis that, we had a CV shortlisting then. We had around, I think, 15 to 16 shortlists initially.
13.
Yeah, somewhere around that. And 3 days and 3 rounds of final interviews. Yeah.
For Bank of America, it was a long process. So we started with the CV shortlist. It was a huge shortlist, around 60 people. Then there was a high view, which is a video sort of an interview. The questions were very similar to Deutsche. It was cultural fit and also about situational questions where you had to tackle questions such as there was a time when you had limited information and you had to take a decision and of those sorts. So that was a day prior, and a day after that we had an aptitude test. Post that there was a shortlist of around 12 people, and there were 2 rounds of interviews. So yeah, that was the process.
So I think because we can never be sure of a shortlist, I started briefly with my preparation. But once the shortlist came, I made sure that I was well versed with everything that was there on my CV, the current happenings in terms of finance, economics, geopolitics, and then I also made sure that at least I was clear with the basics of finance and the subjects that I studied in my class in 11th and 12th. And I think along with this, just the right portrayal of the eager and the inclination towards the opportunity worked best for me.
I feel like more than preparing for the day of your interview, it's about the process that you carry along. So say you're interested in finance, so naturally the intent should be that you do something in finance, right? Maybe you're pursuing a professional course, you've made some models, at least you've tried to show your interest in your CV and finally backing it up. Because say you made a DCF, but you should know how a DCF works, what intricacies come in. So that is something which comes along with the process, and like on the day of the interview, it's about being calm, like knowing the academics, so it's something that we mostly forget, and finally sticking to the basics. So that is something that surely helps.
Right, so adding on to that, specifically for markets role, I feel there are 2-3 things that, of course, finance is required. Second is you should know about what is happening and you should be able to take a view on that. So markets overall is about having a view in general. And the third thing, you should be a person with whom your clients would be ready to chat. So those are precisely the things that they look for in interviews. I think for Deutsche, there were questions related to your CATs. For BOFA, CATs-based questions were not so many because they already had the aptitude test. So most of that was already gauged by them. So for me, the interview questions mostly happened to be around geopolitics, about how would you take a view, and the view could be right or wrong. I mean, there's no right or wrong view. So I think those 2-3 things should be, you should be able to convey that to your interviewer, that hey, I can speak and I can take a view and I know what is going on. So I think with finance, these things are very important. Right, so I had before that not done much of finance, and especially in finance we usually think that it would be all Excel, and there were things, but for markets it's a totally different thing that you go, that 8 to 5, the entire room has a different kind of environment itself. And during my internship there were different things that came up. There was whole geopolitics happening, then US coming up to their rate cuts, India's MPC. So I think the experience itself was firstly, they did not consider me to be someone who's like 20 years junior, so they did consider me to be an equal. And I feel that the work that I did was also a lot of initiative based. While they had a structured program, it was up to me about how much of initiative I want to take, and that was how my whole learning curve was made. And for surprising, I think it was I did get. I mean, on the first day there was a prank that they pulled on and things like that. But I think overall it was much better than what I thought my first corporate experience would look like.
So like expecting investment banking experience, in movies you expect 14 hours of work, you're driving the market, you're putting in orders, all of that. So personally it was nothing like that for us because I was primarily with the second order risk group. So personally FRM, then there's always a high expectation that you do risk quite a lot. And the biggest problem I faced was in my first week my manager was not there. So he was working from home. So I had a different kind of conversation with respect to understanding what I have to do, along with my onshore being on leave. So that was something that I had to tackle. It was fun understanding what the business is because it's not something that I expected in a finance role. I expected more of Excel stuff, I expected more of modeling into space, all of that. It was there, but in the later stage of it. But throughout the entire process, what I learned was how to understand the viability of something and finally understanding how can you make money out of it, which was the biggest learning thing. And finally, something that actually drives the entire, the finance as a profession is driven by how you can make money and finally how you can do it in a viable and a feasible manner.
I think for me, did not really go in with any expectations. It was more clean slate. Did not have any idea. But yeah, one thing that I heard a lot was that Deutsche has really good people and that they'll help you a lot. And if I talk about the outcome, I think that really happened. My work was more fundamental, more related to fundamental analysis, looking at balance sheets, analyzing those and coming up with outcomes. And I think in that sense, the people aspect was something that was 100% delivered upon. In terms of the learning as well, I don't think you can expect a better learning curve than somewhere around markets. Heard about experiences from other people as well. So in that sense, pretty good, yeah.
So talking about my in terms of experience, I think I got more than what I expected. Be it in terms of the learnings, be it in terms of exposure, or making connections during the entire 8 weeks. There were no such disappointment, but there was a realization that how vast investment banking, or rather any field, can be once you get a first-hand experience on it and you actually interact with the people out there. Okay, so there is no timestamp schedule that we had in our typical days. So depending on the teams that we are part of, we had different working hours. So apart from the projects that we were assigned, that we were working on a daily basis, we had sessions with different teams so that we could understand the system in the entirety. And to be very honest, it was a great learning experience in that terms. And other than just working, we also got the opportunity to interact with our senior manager. Sometimes they treated us with random snacks, dinner, drinks, and even coffee. So I think the environment there that made you feel so belonged and so a part of their team is something which I really liked about working at Deutsche Bank.
Alright, so it's mostly about reporting when your manager reports, just so you know, because you'll be working with them ultimately. So for me, it was around 8:30. Used to leave by 6:30 in the evening. And with respect to the work again, so we had projects allocated initially. So the entire 2 months for us is completing those projects and any additional project that we might get if in case you complete that prior to that. So the 2 months of it entirety was very more than sufficient for completing the project that you had in hand. Which is why more than that, what really I think plays, as Prashasti said, a really big role in markets is going to people, interacting with them, trying to understand what they do, fitting in different pieces in like a bigger puzzle, right? And seeing like the bigger picture. So that is somewhere where all of us learned a lot, I feel. And beyond that, yeah, just interacting with people, going out with them, going to canteen, having snacks with these guys. these were a majority part of our day.
So my typical day was not very Indian oriented, so I'd have my office from around 12 to 12. So when I would come to office, I'd see them already working, and it would be like 1 hour and we'd go for lunch together or something like that. So it was different, and I used to be there late night, so we even had dinner in the office, which was fun again. So my work in the bank was more around talking with the sales team with respect to understanding how they're finally going to sell the product that I'm working upon. Then talking with the credit risk team that okay, this is something that's happened in the past, we can't mess up in this particular domain. And also regularly having works with them onshore because there are live deals happening upon something that I'm working upon. So it's very important to be accountable for what I'm considering and having checks, because you can't make a small mistake which could lead to a huge potential loss. And the impact might be so big that the entire revamp could cost a lot to the banks in the general sense as well. And besides that, the entire work week at Deutsche was full of different activities. So the first week itself, we had a cricket match. We had a lot of fun over there, and there was a lot of informal banter which we loved there. We had snacks, we had drinks. So we had different people talking to us. So your understanding investment banking as a whole was very different. In the first week, you get to know yourself this, this, how everything is related, and you feel like this is a big web of different activities interlinking each other. And your entire 2 months is basically understanding, okay, this part of the web is this is this, and finally coming up with the whole picture. And that is something that is the biggest takeaway. So you get an idea of what the business is and what people perceive it to be.
Right. So for me, it was a little different. Firstly, I was like in India, I was the only intern in third division, and for BOFA, it's APAC region that they come up with this program for. So with me, there were 22 other interns from 7 countries. So what we used to have essentially were, I was working on 2 different aspects. First was the APAC projects, and second was the India projects. So for APAC, what had happened is it was a weekly thing. So on Monday, they used to introduce business of the week, and on Friday, we had to make presentations, group presentations to different desks, and that is where we went beyond markets. So we had from other equities and different segments, bonds within BOFA and outside. So all of those we had to work on a weekly basis. Other than that, I was allotted 3 projects by the India team, and those had to be presented by the end of my internship. So the weeks were pretty packed because of the APAC projects, and also, as they said, you have to take a lot of initiative so as to understand markets, because essentially what happens is your team members would be there from 8 to 5, and during that time they'll be very packed, and post that they don't wait. So if the market is done, they go out. So during that time you have to see whether if the sales team is free, if the bonds desk is free, and you go and ask them, how does this product work, or there was this change, why did the dollar rupee go up, go down. So all of that you need to take that initiative. So a lot of time used to go there, and for me the hours, I also used to go around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and for me coming back was totally on me. I used to stay a little late because of doing the APAC projects, and over the weekend it was the India projects that I used to work on. And yeah, I think for me the team in general was very accommodative, and we too had interactions, lunch, dinner, so I think that is something common for all of us.
Talking about advice for the field of finance, so I'll speak for myself. I always liked finance, right? And my CV did reflect it. So my interest was reflected over that. I like markets, I'm doing courses, and in general, I want to know how the financial market works and different instruments and everything like that. So my interest was also very much focused about taking hedging positions, what impacts the bond rates, so how do you duration, how do you derive duration, and everything related to the mathematics as well. So what I feel is, if you are interested in finance, firstly, your CV should show that you're interested. And maybe you don't have a CV that's very finance oriented, but having a balanced CV helps as well, which shows that okay, you can be molded into a direction. So it could also be finance. And when you get an internship in the finance field, you have the opportunity to actually understand what people perceive it to be and what you are in this particular field. So say you might have a different opinion about finance. So finance is different in different fields as well, right? So in investment bank, you'll have a different role as compared to maybe venture capital. So their difference comes. So your internship gives you an opportunity to understand where you've interned in, so whether this field is right for you. And corresponding talking to people in a particular investment bank, people take switches from consulting to investment banking from different fields. So you get an idea of how this has changed their life, what their role was prior to it. Somebody working in trading, whether it is shifted, whether he wants to move out. So the opportunity gives you to understand people, to understand your career aspirations, and finally looking at where you perceive yourself to be in the long run. So understanding that, okay, I'm in finance just for some years and then making switches, but deciding how your life should be, because it's a chance to understand yourself in the market, be recognized and learn from people, learn from others' mistakes, learn from others' experiences, and finally be the best of what you can be.
Beyond that, I feel, the initial step is to get a CV shortlist, and that can only happen if you have a very strong CV. And honestly, both BOFA and DB, I feel, look for like a very well-balanced CV in all aspects. Have a decent GPA, should not be extremely high, that is not the cut that they make, but does not mean that you have below batch average. be in good societies, have good internships, something that you can speak about in your interview as well, right? A holistic, well-rounded person. Once you get a CV shortlist, I feel it's more about how you present yourself. In case whether or not you convert depends on that. But before that, it does become very random at times. Do not blame yourself. The best that you can do is, try to be the best at everything that you do.
So starting with the whole process part and then we go to markets in specific. I feel yes, we start with the CV shortlist. I think nothing that we say or anyone says will confirm a shortlist. So it's essentially at times it is random, but yeah, I think whatever is there within your control, you should. I mean, the ACADS part or any of those. And I feel people at times just want to do best in all the 4 major buckets as we have. But for me, it was majorly having a well-rounded CV as such and having 1 or 2 spikes that works. And essentially post that even when you get a shortlist because of the societies you are in or the internship you have done, I think you should be able to present all those experiences. Because you have to understand that with you, there will be people who have had the same experiences and they might have been in the process as well. They would have got the same score. So how do you differentiate is very important, and that is where I would like to bring markets, because people part is really important in markets. You need to strike that conversation with your client every day for the same thing, and you cannot make it sound monotonous. So and that is what is being gauged by that interviewer other than your finance knowledge. So you should be someone who can have conversations, and when an MD is taking your interview, you can do it only when you have things to say about and how you present it. So I feel being prepared also helps a lot during these interviews. Other than that, when you enter, you're about to enter, I feel, even I remember post on my last day, one of my seniors said that, your markets journey has begun. So now, even 4 years later, if anyone asks you for any FX pair what is happening, or for any bond what is happening, you should know. So that is how markets work. For 17 years, people have been doing the same thing, and for markets it's also there. Their average stay, like for BOFA, it was 9 years, which is very rare in other industries. And that driving force is to know things in and out. You cannot know everything, but if you know about one product, you should know in and out, and that will come only when you read a lot and news and things like that. So I think one of the things that I learned during this, because I had to give this, I was the youngest in the team, and you have to send a morning brief. That's the rule. So I had to do it for 2 months, and for that, one day prior, I had to sit and look for news. Every day you have to look up for news, and guys, there are news. Every day there's something happening. We just don't get to know it. So I think that is really important for marketers.
So I think Pooja and Vanshika have pretty much talked about the process. So if I talk about internship, yeah, they do define your career aspirations, your interests. But I think at the same time, they also provide you with a launch pad to understand where your interest lies. It is not that if you are pursuing an internship in certain field, that is what you definitely want to do. So it's simply a launch pad for you. That is, you can understand if you want to do this work for full time or not. So it's presenting you that opportunity that see that if you want to do this or not do this. So, but if you genuinely have interest in this field of finance, I think this field is very rewarding and it's very holistic, and it does give you that length and breadth to explore yourself.
So on an ending note, one of my seniors said this, and I think it's true that your internship season or your placement season, it's meant to be a marathon, not a sprint. So take it in that mindset and things will follow. And yeah, just hoping all the best for this batch and the batches to come for the recruitment times.
So the last thing that I'll say is play on your merit. You know what you know best. Don't look at what others are doing. Look roles that you fit in. Look at places where you want to be, and finally stick to the basics. Nothing beats the fundamentals. Be focused and do your best.
This is not the end of the day. All the best.
All the best, guys. Stay calm, compose. Don't let this season take the better of you. Everything will fall into place.